is getting set up, I want to thank council for hearing this tonight and introduce some guests that we have. Chief Deputy Burgess is from the Livingston County Sheriff's Office. Their office received an MRAP in
late 2016.
late 2016, so he's here to answer any questions that council may have regarding the acquisition and their maintenance or upkeep of that vehicle. Also present is Sheriff Bill Sheriff from the Genesee County Sheriff's Department. He's here in support of this as well to answer any questions from his perspective that the council may have. And Legislator Gary Mayha is in the house. We're going to try and keep this to about 3 hours. Chris really wanted to go 4, but I said 3. There you go. So first of all, I'll give you a little background about our emergency response team. Our emergency response team, or the city SWAT team, was formed in 1997 to handle law enforcement situations that are beyond the scope of normal patrol functions. Some examples of that are high-risk search warrants, barricaded subjects, people in hostage situations, or any other exceptional circumstances. At the time, it was created and staffed only by City of Batavia police officers. In 2007, the City of Batavia and Genesee County amended their law enforcement mutual aid agreement to include Genesee County as part of a multi-jurisdictional response team, and sheriff's deputies were added to that team at the time. In 2015, the MOU was again altered to add the village of Leroy. They currently don't have any members on the team, but they are a member of the ERT team. Since its inception, ERTs responded to many high-risk situations such as barricaded gunmen, hostage situations, mental health crises, high-risk search warrants, high-risk arrest warrants, just to name a few. They've been deployed to numerous locations across the county to aid in enforcement in those high-risk situations. Each member of the emergency response team has a specific role and trains diligently to stay current with the most recent trends. They train monthly on various tactics and techniques. Currently, the team is commanded by Sergeant Chris Camp to my left, who oversees all the administrative duty. He plans all of the training. He has some team leaders that he relies on to do that, plans all the operations, develops curriculum, evaluates and recommends equipment for purchase, stays up to date with current practices and policies. This is just a real brief overview of the makeup of the team. You have a team commander, 2 leaders, and then you have some operational aspects. Our current vehicle that we use as a transport vehicle is a 2010 Ford E50 Cube van. The vehicle was purchased with Homeland Security funds by the Genesee County Sheriff's Office for the purpose of transporting these members. It has absolutely no ballistic protection. By ballistic protection, what it means is it's not capable of stopping a bullet. Every officer wears a ballistic vest, it's called. It's a vest that is supposed to keep a bullet from penetrating the person's gear. This vehicle has none. I want to give you a brief example of a situation where vehicles like this come in handy on our vehicle. On December 1st, 2015, ERT was activated to respond to Selman Road on the town of Leroy for an active shooter. Upon arrival, it was learned that the suspect had killed his neighbor and set his own house on fire. When first responders arrived to assess the situation, including fire and police, they were shot at by this gentleman with a long gun. Nearby residents were informed to shelter in place via the active 911 or reverse 911, sorry. The suspect continued to walk around his property into the road, taunting officers, refusing to command to comply. The command post for that was our vehicle that you saw there, and it was parked further down the road since it doesn't have any protection. Due to the closeness to Monroe County, there was actually a deputy that was on duty that overheard the radio transmissions. He was an active member of their SWAT team, a ranking member. So he basically self-deployed. He was able to contact their SWAT team and brought 2 of their armored vehicles to that scene. Once on scene, they started negotiating with the suspect from a closer distance, and eventually they were able to take that suspect into custody once they moved that vehicle upon him. So currently, our emergency response teams lacks the necessary vehicle to aid in apprehension and rescue of those in high-risk situations. In order to protect members of the public and public safety, police, fire, EMS, we are looking to obtain a ballistic rated rescue vehicle. I'm going to turn it over to Sergeant Camp, who's going to go over the MRAP and 1033 program.
Hello, everybody.
My name is Sergeant Chris Camp. I've been with this APD for about 12 years. Been in charge of the team as commander, my capacity as commander, about 3 years. Prior to that, I've been on a team since about 2007. I got brought on the team when we went countywide and we brought deputies on. The whole purpose of obtaining an armored rescue vehicle is bottom line to save lives. Ideally, we'll go into here a little bit, why do we need an armored vehicle? Primary purpose, as I mentioned, help protect civilians, officers, and again, to save lives. We're deficient in being able to provide a safe means to help recover someone from a hostile situation. Hostile situation can be anything if there's active firing happening, active shooter. We're all well aware of those inherent dangers that we have. Armored rescue vehicle would help us get to civilians or to anybody in need a lot faster. The vehicles not only have ballistic protection, but they're very versatile in rugged terrain. If you pay attention to the news, which I'm sure everybody here does, they've been used in various circumstances besides just an active shooter or a threat of firearms. They're used to high waters, floods, snowfall, so on and so forth. The vehicle itself is made to traverse some rough terrain. The Lenco Bearcat Lenco is a company, a Bearcat is a model of an armored vehicle which they offer. It's very popular among law enforcement agencies. Most of the law enforcement agencies who have a Lenco Bearcat have a lot bigger budget, they're a lot bigger department. Specifically built for law enforcement agencies as their primary rescue vehicle. The Bearcat has proven its value time and time again, saving lives of officers, civilians, and emergency services personnel. In 2016, I got a quote from Lenco. The base price of a Lenco Bearcat is about $198,000. I added some options that I thought would be beneficial to this area. That option included a diesel motor. It included an off-road package because we're a countywide unit. We're rural. We might have to go down some farm roads. We might have to go into some fields, so on and so forth. A few of those options brought that price up to about $255,000. And as I mentioned, it does have some options in it that I thought would be very beneficial to our terrain here. 1033 program was created by the National Defense Authorization Act as part of the U.S. government's Defense Logistics Agency Disposition Services to transfer excess military equipment to civilian law enforcement agencies. Via the 1033 program, you can get anything from a rain jacket to an armored vehicle, depending on what is available through the federal government. A lot of it's decommissioned military equipment. It allows local law enforcement agencies who maybe don't have the budget or the funds to obtain that equipment, to use that equipment rather than them just discarding it. The federal government would still own the MRAP. It wouldn't be the city of Batavia's property. The federal government will still own it. There's a possibility that at a time, if need be, the federal government could call on that piece of property that they own to come back in case they needed it. Has yet to happen with MRAPs, and it really doesn't happen with a lot of equipment. Like I said, it's a possibility because it is still federal government property. If we ever decided that we no longer wanted to possess this piece of equipment, there may be some small costs associated with returning the equipment, being that it's a controlled piece of property, the fire suppression system, a couple other things. It might be on the cost of the city to decommission that piece of equipment. It's very unlikely that we would have to turn it into the federal government. The way that things are going now, odds are, speculation, you would offer that out, you would contact your local 1033 representative, you would explain that you would no longer want that piece of equipment, and then he would send out a memo or a letter to all agencies involved in the 1033 program offering this vehicle. I truly believe that if that were the case, there's such a lot of agencies are going to this piece of equipment and want this piece of equipment, and the fact of the matter that is they could get an already police retrofitted armored vehicle, it would probably most likely go to another law enforcement agency where they would absorb the costs. MRAP stands for Mine Resistant Ambush Protected Vehicle. There are various models, various manufacturers of the MRAP. The specific MRAP we're looking to purchase is pictured right here as you see. It's on an international chassis. Okay, an MRAP was an armored vehicle manufactured by Navistar International for use by the U.S. military for direct action combat missions overseas. The whole purpose of this vehicle is to protect our soldiers. It's currently being offered to local law enforcement agencies through the 1033 program. Many law enforcement agencies have acquired MRAPs and use them as their primary rescue vehicle, armored rescue vehicle. In the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see a picture I found on Google of a local law enforcement agency who converted an MRAP to meet police needs. By the 1033 program, we can obtain an MRAP for basically free. Now, agencies are choosing to acquire an MRAP over similar vehicles due to the lower impact on municipal budgets. These are some specifications on the MRAP. I'm not going to bore you too much with these. Basically, it's a larger vehicle. It's a four-wheel drive vehicle. It's got some length, width, height, maximum travel speed, turning distance, payload, slope, approach angle, center of gravity. Just a couple specifications on the particular MRAP that we're looking to acquire. And the cost estimates, I spoke with numerous police agencies who have MRAPs. So the three that I want to point out are Saratoga County, Livingston County, and Warren County, New York. Saratoga County this is a rough breakdown of their costs they had in their MRAP. The transportation was about $7,100. Most of the time you're going to get these vehicles from California. When you have California, it's going to be on a military base. There's a few trucking companies out there that are willing to go get that, and their drivers have to pass a background check because they have to go onto a military base. They spend about $7,100 in transport, police equipment, repairs, paint, maintenance, or decals. They added a thermal camera, all their miscellaneous expenses to get it ready for their police unit was about $20,000. I just want to point out that Saratoga County received an MRAP that belonged to a reservist unit, or National Guard unit, and had about 10,000 miles on it. It was in very, very good shape. Livingston County, same place. They had to go down to California. They spent about $6,500 on transportation, and they had about $9,800 in repairs and equipment to get it ready for police. Their total investment was about $16,400. I would also like to point out with Livingston County, their vehicle had some issues. It was overseas, it saw active fire, it saw active combat. I'll leave the chief deputy can comment on a couple things if you guys have questions on that as far as the condition of the vehicle. But I just do want to point out that it was in a lot worse condition than Saratoga County. The only reason that Saratoga County spent so much is they just put more police equipment on it. Warren County was the lucky one. They actually only had to go up to Fort Drum. They got it from Fort Drum. They used their own municipal lowboy to retrieve the vehicle. And to get that ready for police use, they had about $12,000 invested into it. Cost to the city of Batavia, again, I can only give you a cost estimate. I can't say for certain what this vehicle will need. I can only guess to the best of my research that I've done. But you're going to have a transportation fee for the vehicle. Worst case scenario would be California. There was rumors through the 1033 program that Texas might get a shipment in, Pennsylvania might get a shipment. Obviously, the closer to New York, the lower the cost of transportation. Cost to get the vehicle mechanically ready for use. It could be tires, it could be brakes, it could be, I don't know if it was Livingston County, the fuel tank had some issues.
Yeah, most of these are sitting for a decent period of time before the federal government decides to surplus them. So I can pretty much guarantee it's probably going to need batteries and it's probably going to need the fuel system cleaned. Over and above that, it's kind of rolling the dice what you may end up getting.
It'll all depend on the condition of the vehicle. I can tell you that if a vehicle is really bad, the federal government does not offer it on this program. They will just get rid of the vehicles that are really bad. Retrofitting for police use, by the time you figure paint, by the time you radios, emergency lighting, anything that we feel that we would need to help make it better for law enforcement purposes. Annual maintenance will be required just like all city-owned vehicles. The advantage we have with this type of vehicle, international chassis, international motor. That's the same chassis or similar chassis to what we have down at Public Works for our dump trucks, our snow plows. The advantage of this model vehicle is international, and our mechanics at Public Works are very familiar with it. Again, my 5-year cost estimate outlook, I'm guessing between $11,500 to $17,000. It could be more, could be less. It all depends again on the condition of the vehicle when we get it. It includes the items listed above. Years 2 to 5, you're going to have your annual preventative maintenance, fluid filters, just like what we do with our vehicles, just like what they do down there with their dump trucks. But I guessed about $500 a year max. All associated costs with this vehicle would be split 50-50 with the Genesee County Sheriff's Office. The money would be coming from funds obtained by the city and the county from asset forfeiture, not tax dollars, whenever possible. The training, initial training, we would look to contract with Smith Integrated Technologies. They specialize in training law enforcement on the MRAP. They're basically a retired Army instructor, went out on his own. They're very popular in law enforcement now, so he's created his own company to go train police officers on the operation of this. What they also do is they put you in contact with companies who have parts and equipment for the vehicle. If you need some sort of part and it's tough to get, they will put you in contact with companies who have that. They will also give you shop manuals and stuff like that to assist our local public works with maintenance if need be. We are also very lucky in that Livingston County has a mechanic at their local Bureau of Maintenance who worked on these in the military. It's a cost of about $150 per student. Right now we currently have about 15 operators on our emergency response team, plus travel and lodging for the instructors. I think I rough calculated to about $3,300 for the initial training. After that we would have a minimum 4-hour annual training that we would put all of our operators through. The storage requirement, the storage per the 1033 program, again, it's not our piece of equipment. We have to maintain it. We have to keep it for the federal government. We have to keep it in good condition. So it needs to be in a secure area with restricted or limited access. It's recommended the vehicle is under some sort of shelter, but it's not required to the 1033 program. The storage options, these options listed would need to be explored further on exactly what model we receive. A shelter can be erected at the Bureau of Maintenance between about $5,000 to $7,000. And the Genesee County Sheriff's Office has also volunteered or looked at the possibility of maybe retrofitting their area to see if they can assist us with the storage of the vehicle. Because it's a rescue vehicle, it's going to be assigned to the Batavia Police Emergency Response Team, but the only time you see it isn't going to be when you activate our emergency response team. As I mentioned earlier, it's a vehicle that can be used in rugged terrain, it can be used in natural disasters, so on and so forth. So if it is a vehicle, if we need the vehicle just to help save people or help to get to people, then we would have a rotation with our certified operators that would go through a team of at least 2, because you need a driver and a co-driver, to go through and go out, and if they needed a couple more, we could have a couple more officers or operators with that to go assist and do whatever we need to do to give people a helping hand. In conclusion, there's a desperate need in our community for an armored rescue vehicle in order to protect members of our public safety and civilians that may be exposed to high-risk situations. I hope together we never ever need this vehicle, but if we need it, it would be extremely important that we can have that, and it would be a huge benefit. Armored vehicle is meant to save lives, and the Lenco Bearcat is a perfect vehicle for this. It's purpose-built for law enforcement agencies, however, it comes at a cost of over $250,000. 1033 program allows us to obtain a roughly $650,000 armored vehicle that's easily converted to meet the requirements for law enforcement use at a fraction of the cost of a Lenco Bearcat. I open that up to any questions from any of you. Yes, sir?
How many officers can fit in a truck?
You can do about 6 on the side, 6 right on the side, depending on how you configure it. And then you've got a driver and a co-driver. So anywhere between 8 and 10. Yes.
I spoke to Gary Maha, our legislator and our former sheriff, last week, and he gave me quite an insight on it, and the fact that we spoke about the incident in Leroy, but I was referring to the incident in Webster, New York, and what happened in Webster, New York. Some of our firemen that went to help were shot and killed, besides him killing his sister, and it just was unbelievable. So anything to protect our police officers and to protect us, I'm in for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please the screen.
Chief, I have 2 questions.
Yes, sir.
Number one, what portion of this is the county willing to pay for?
Again, we've discussed this and we're willing to split the cost 50-50 pending legislature approval.
Okay. And the other question are, we self-insuring this vehicle?
Yep, we looked into insurance for it. It'd be about a $900 addition to our already insurance policy if we were able to.
Okay. Can I get one next week then?
You guys gotta sign off on it. There's a public process.
Just where would we get the money for this?
Just to be clear, the insurance wouldn't be self-insured, that would be through the city's insurance policy.
Which is not technically self-insured.
Right.
The funds for this would come from the forfeiture, the drug forfeiture funds. Currently, I believe the chief had, there's currently about $10,000 in it.
Just a little over that, yes.
A little over $10,000 would be owed for the city's 50% of that initial transportation outfitting cost if council so chose to go with that. Again, what is being considered is to sign off for the application to be prepared, and then you have to wait for the availability and then that's the timeline could be out there in ways as well, just so everyone understands that.
Yeah, make no mistake, what we're asking for is your approval to get on the list.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask our colleague in Livingston County how long it took you to acquire the vehicle once you got on the list. Is it months? Is it years?
It all depends. We get out there and look at things all the time, but it changes every single day. So our sheriff had some communication with our board of supervisors, and it basically got a nod for us to move forward with the process. So we had prepped and planned. Now, how much time went by between when we got it, I don't have that information in front of me. I know we got our MRAP in the fall of 16, October of 16.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I'm just going to suggest if we don't do the Redfield pillars, we're going to need one of these things on the west end of town.
The drug forfeiture money, they can only be used for police equipment, correct?
That is my understanding.
It's your mark for police use.
Right, but it isn't required to be used for that?
It isn't required to be used for any police. It has to be a police function, yes.
Okay, I just want to make it clear that this can't be just put in the general fund. This money has to be earmarked.
Yes, it's applied to the dedicated fund. Just the police chief can speak to it a little bit better than I can.
Anyone else?
No, I support this issue. It's a safety issue, so I support this purchase 100%.
Is there anyone who doesn't like the idea? Okay, so we're all in favor to move this resolution to the next business meeting, which will be that July meeting, for approval so that they can then file the paperwork we'll do the vote then to allow them to put in the paperwork. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you. So that moves forward.